Meeting tonight. Mary Jo, can you please call the roll?
Kevin Tansky.
Here.
Barb Politzky.
Here.
Ron Van Kurt.
Here.
Meg Ryan Shaki. Here. Andy Selhertz.
Here.
Kathy Pucci.
Here.
Mary Belbear.
Here.
Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? And after we're done with the pledge, please remain standing for a moment of silence in remembrance of the victims of domestic terrorism throughout the summer, as well as the lives lost on September 11th, 18 years ago.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. At this time, we'll have a public hearing in regards to the Community Development Block Grant, so I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you, Council President. As required by a Community Development Block Grant, we are having this public hearing. Cuyahoga County receives Community Development Block Grant funding each year directly from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The county makes these funds available to the city through a competitive grant application program and allows cities to request up to $150,000. The funds enabled provide cities viability for promoting decent housing, suitable living environments while expanding economic development opportunities. The national objectives is to benefit low to moderate income persons or to aid in the elimination of blight. Specifically, the initiatives include master plans, infrastructure, streetscapes, community and senior centers, housing and commercial demolition, public safety, parks and playgrounds, and other initiatives as outlined by 24 CFR 570. As part of HUD requirements, to qualify for this grant, cities are required to hold a public session, as we notified a couple weeks ago as part of the requirements. County recommends grant applications include comments from residents, so if you're unable to attend this meeting tonight and you hear this on the city council meeting and you have suggestions, don't hesitate to contact me at my email address, which is kagallagher@brooklynohio.gov, or you can call me at 216-635-4220. At this time, if anybody from the audience has any suggestions on what the city should apply for, please come up to the podium and please keep your remarks to 5 minutes or under. If you're here today and you haven't signed in at the back where the sign-in sheet was, I'd ask you if you could sign in, please. That is part of our public process as well.
And there's no one.
May I be recognized?
Yes.
What are the projects that the city is considering, please?
There are no definitive projects as of right now. We are going through the public session and doing this early and seeking feedback from the directors on certain projects that would qualify for the city. As most of you know, as you go through the planning stage with the county, which has not had the meeting yet, typically they'll give indication of what projects they're going to favor for the year, so we like to tailor it to projects we feel that would receive a higher ranking. Those projects typically include where you're working with other communities or agencies and they feel like their money is going farther with that kind of partnership.
Okay, thank you. I realize that we don't have that information yet because they haven't had the meeting, but one thing I think we should consider is maybe trying to address some of the sidewalks. We haven't been able to do that for a little while now, and I think there are some bad ones out there. So if we could at least give some consideration to a sidewalk program, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our meeting dated June 24th, 2019. Are there any comments or questions?
May I be recognized?
Yes.
I believe it's on page 2. Just a moment, let me bring them up. From the 24th. There's just a misspelling of, it's the first full paragraph, Aisha's Law. I believe it's A-I-E-S-H-A. So if we could just correct that. I'd make a motion that we amend to correct that.
Second.
To approve the minutes as amended, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Abstain.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Kathy Pucci?
Staying.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
And as part of our council rules, I abstained from that vote because I was not in attendance at that meeting. All right, next up is minutes from our meeting dated July 1st, 2019. Are there any comments or questions regarding these minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
To approve the minutes, Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Okay, at this time we have a guest speaker. Our state senator, Nikki Antonio, is here, and so I'm going to turn the podium over to her at this time. Senator?
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me a little bit of time. I apologize for having my back to you. It's always awkward. Somebody let me know if they're making faces. My name is Nikki Antonio, and I am the state senator. I've been your state senator since January, and I wanted to come and give you a little bit of a report on what happened with two of our budgets right now, and have a conversation, answer any questions that you may have to the best of my ability. Happy to answer them. I guess I'll start with saying that I have awesome committees that I've been assigned. I am on the Transportation, Commerce, and Workforce Committee as the ranking minority member on that committee. Health and Human Services and Medicaid, also the ranking minority member on that. I serve on Finance. I also serve on the Finance Subcommittee on Health and Human Services and the Joint Medicaid Oversight Committee. I'm the ranking member there. I'm also serve on the Ways and Means Committee. As you can see, one of the things that is guaranteed in the Senate, especially when you serve in the minority caucus, is that we are on a lot of committees. What's wonderful is the fact that they're very important committees, and I'm very honored to serve on all of them. When we had our transportation budget earlier this year, as many of you may be aware, as the ranking Democrat on that committee, we oversaw the budget, met with the governor as well as our other colleagues, and I'm happy to report I was also the Senate conferee for that committee, so we had to work to finish the final budget and work in conference committee to make sure that we could harmonize what the House and the Senate both did and come together with a final budget. No small task, no easy task for sure, but we did accomplish it. And we fought to bring additional dollars back to our local communities, especially to fix roads, bridges, and infrastructure, because we know how important that is. We were happy to see that there was a moderate increase in the gas tax. Nobody likes to see an increase in a tax, but we knew that somewhere between what the governor had proposed of an 18-cent gas tax and 20 cents for diesel increase. The House had proposed 10.7 cents and the Senate had proposed 6 cents. We ended up with a compromise at 10.5 for gas and 19 cents for diesel. And in the long run, we believe that that will serve us well in terms of making additional monies available for infrastructure. At the same time, one of the things that happened with that budget was there was a committee that was formed that has to study how do we go forward and pay for our infrastructure in the long run, because we know that with more efficiencies in our vehicles, we can't continue to look at a gas tax to be able to fund those programs. So the committee will look at things like whether or not we're going to tax miles driven, or if there's some other strategy that may work, or a combination of the two. We also did bring in some of the renewable vehicles into this, so there was a small assessment on electric vehicles. Again, that was a debate. How much to do? We didn't want to deter anyone from using or purchasing an electric vehicle. At the same time, we also wanted to see them pay a fair share, if that's possible. And so, interesting debate that we know is going to continue. We also increased the Ohio Earned Income Tax Credit for low and moderate Ohioans from 10% to 30%. We tried to get a refundable Earned Income Tax Credit. Many of you know that what happens with those Earned Income Tax Credits when they come to our low-income families, they spend that money in our local communities. And so we tried as much as possible to have the return be there. We didn't quite get that done, but many of us are going to continue to push for it to be a refundable tax credit. It also, in that transportation budget, there were provisions that were initially put in there that would have undermined local labor standards for some construction projects, especially in municipalities. We were able to get that language out, and we felt really good about that because it not only affects the bottom line of our projects, especially when municipalities do their own repair or construction projects, but we also know that it's good to support those providers of those services, those folks in construction that make a living wage, and to pay not only folks who are in unions, but also continue to support the local municipalities' rules around those projects. Now I'll move on to the operating budget. We have a 2-year, $69 billion budget that was approved on both, and I served on both full finance and Health and Medicaid subcommittee for the finance committee. This is the first budget. I voted on every budget. I was a House member for 8 years, so I had 4 terms in the House. This is the first time I've ever voted in the affirmative on a budget. Up to this point, I voted no. But there were more good things in the budget, more things for me to vote yes on than there were to garner a no vote. We really saw the commitment to the people of Ohio as an investment in our communities. This budget increased local government funds, which is something that we had been trying to do for the 8 years that I've been in the House, to return some of those local government funds back to our communities. It increased funds for children's services. Again, with the opioid crisis, one of the things we saw and we see every day is that there's a greater need in our communities, especially in county services, for family services and children's services when you have a parent who may have overdosed and either is going through treatment or sadly deceased. Now we have a family that is in need of additional services. Sometimes children need to be placed, and the numbers have been growing, but the funding to support those services hasn't kept up with the need. And so we were happy to see an increase in the funding this time in this budget. We also saw an increase in wraparound services for our schools. So the health and human services that many times, and we know is important to the success of our children when they have mental health services, when they have some of the other programs that they need. This budget actually acknowledged the necessity of them and created a funding source for additional services so that our local schools aren't having to bear the total burden of paying for those kinds of services, but there will be additional money provided. We also saw additional funding for the assisted living waiver. So this is for folks that are living in assisted living facilities and needing some additional help. That is there. It also funded the H2O Ohio Water Quality Initiative for the next 2 years. That was a huge debate, but we know how important it is to not only have clean drinking water, but also to be able to have the funds to make sure that our sewers and our infrastructure, again, is healthy and up to the EPA standards that we have to maintain in the community. It also increased funding for affordable housing programs through the Ohio Trust Fund, Housing Trust Fund. We also provided tax relief for small businesses. This was a debate. Restored zero income taxes on the first $250,000 earned by small businesses. And we hope that one of the benefits of that will again be that we'll see some local investment in our local communities. It also removed the bottom income tax brackets and an 8% across the board income tax reduction. If you're a fan of income tax reduction, you know that many times the top percent are the folks are usually the ones that benefit. It was important in this budget that there was also tax breaks for lower income folks. And so with that, I will stop. That's where we are right now. It took us until mid-July to be able to pass the budget. We're just seeing some of those programs and initiatives start to run. They'll start showing up in the next few months. The legislature is back in session in the next week, and so we will be back at it with hopefully some good public policy for the people of Ohio. I know one of the things that we're discussing right now, even before we've gone back, is the issue around some of the court cases around the opioid epidemic and those cases with the pharmaceutical companies. I agree with the governor, who believes that each county and public entity that has taken a court case should be allowed and should follow through all the way through. So Cuyahoga County just had a settlement. Right now, there's a little bit of disagreement on the part of the Attorney General, but my hope is that in the long run, we will see communities be able to have these cases come forward and the funds come back to them, because we know that for counties like Cuyahoga County, where we were very hard hit, and each community has been so impacted by this epidemic, those resources need to come back so that the communities really can care for folks who need treatment, and also be able to support police and fire and emergency services that had to go not just one extra mile, but probably 20 in responding to the opioid epidemic in our local communities. So we believe it's only fair that the funds from any kind of a settlement come back to those communities as well. And with that, I'll stop, and happy to try to answer any questions that you may have.
Well, thank you for coming for the update. Same when Representative Sweeney was here, the same question came up as well, and that's of course for school funding.
Yes.
That is a huge problem that we have here in the city of Brooklyn. I know that the Cup-Patterson agreement or whatever has been updated through a new House bill. What's going on with that? Anything? I know they're not in session yet, but what's going on prior to that?
Well, I know, and I appreciate the question, and Representative Sweeney and I have compare notes often and work together. Both are very aware of what a concern this is for, especially for the community of Brooklyn. I've talked personally with the sponsors of the Cup-Patterson bill. They've assured me that the unique situation of Brooklyn, which there's a couple other communities in the state that share this, I explain as being sort of underwater, if you will, where the median income is lower than the median income of the state, and yet Brooklyn is treated as a high wealth district. Yeah, right. And that language and that description has been a curiosity to me to begin with, as if, and it really came about in the last 8 years of the past administration. This is where this whole idea of, if you have the ability to raise levy dollars in your local community, you don't need state dollars. That was not a part of the original compact with the state of Ohio. And so I reject that notion. Unfortunately, that's what we're living under right now. Cup-Patterson would help to remediate that. Where we're at with that bill is they are trying very hard to continue to have hearings and to move it through. But as you can imagine, anytime you try to change a formula as complicated as this, and we were talking about this right before I came in, one size doesn't fit all. Some communities benefit under the current system, and so they don't want to see a change. Some obviously would benefit from a change. So we're continuing to advocate for Cup-Patterson to be instituted into law. If there are changes that need to take place, fine, let's amend it so that it benefits everyone. But I'm committed to continuing to fight for that to pass because we know it would really be beneficial.
And just one follow-up question on that. When Representative Sweeney was here, I know they were trying to get that as attached to the budget. Obviously, that didn't happen. She seemed to indicate that the chances of something like that passing outside the budget were slim to none. I don't want to put words in her mouth. That's kind of what was insinuated. Thoughts on that?
It is very difficult because of the fact that it requires additional dollars to be allocated, and that's very difficult to do out of a budget process. We do have a thing called a budget adjustment in this next year, in the second year of the biennium budget, where we will take one more look at the budget. We will look at were there awardees of funds in the budget that they didn't use? And that's how we make adjustments. So perhaps there's additional funds. That would be the time to have one more try at putting it into a budget document. And if that doesn't succeed, we will continue to try to get it passed on its own. Yeah.
Okay. And one further question that I'll.
Sure.
Residents of Brooklyn, this is obviously a huge concern. We've had numerous levies that have been put on the ballot here. Some have passed, some haven't. And so the schools find themselves in a difficult financial position. What can parents, residents of the city do to, obviously you're here, and to which we appreciate that, Representative Sweeney was here, but what else can they do to be in the ear of the people that need to be so that we can get something resolved? Make sure this isn't I know it's a big project, but it's not something that the state certainly can't correct.
It's the leadership. It's communicating with the leadership. So if I was going to advise anyone who wanted to make a phone call, write a letter, it's to the President of the Senate, Larry Ophoff, and the President, and the Speaker of the House, Larry Householder. Those would be the folks, because they're the decision makers that really, it's their word that then triggers us being able to even consider the legislation. So they're the ones that really need to hear that. But I think that would be time well spent to communicate with them.
Thanks, Senator. Any other council people?
I just got a quick question. You passed this gas tax, and what I'd like to know, how soon are we going to get some of these roads fixed? The on-ramps in Brooklyn are terrible. We need an additional lane on going westbound coming off the freeway from 480 on to Rich, because they're using the brim, now they're using the actual grass to turn right, and the traffic's being backed up all the way up 480. That's a disaster. 490 from 77 heading westbound is a roller coaster. So, they did get their money. How soon before all these, I don't know if you want to say this, inner city highway streets are going to start to be fixed? Because they're still the same way for the last how many years?
Well, if I were queen of the world, it would be much quicker than the answer I'm going to give you on the part of what happens in terms of how quickly government works, especially when it comes to monies being allocated and decisions being made about appropriations and approval of specific projects. And I know there's a priority list that's probably above my pay grade in terms of how is that list prioritized, usually through the track system of our roads and bridges when they're built. There's a master list right now that has all of our roads and bridges prioritized, but what all of us know, and I spent 5 years even more than that in municipal government, so one of the things we all know though is that every year the list changes because the conditions of the road, if they've been bad, they deteriorate more. And so how quickly that's going to happen, I really can't say. What I know is that your leadership is definitely communicating with the state in terms of the condition of those roads and pushing to make them a higher priority for sure.
Well, the westbound ramp coming from 480 onto Ridge Road is got to be widened. There's got to be something done. There's going to be a major accident. What's going to happen on 480 because it's backing all the way back up. And I know there's construction in that lane going on under the bridge right now, going southbound on Ridge, I get that. But prior to that, they're running over into the grass. I see it every day. They're going into the brim, and now they're going into the grass to try to make that right, going northbound on Ridge.
And you're in District 10 for Odette, or 12? So the other thing that certainly can be done is communicating with the folks in District 12, because that makes it a little more local to find out where is that specific on-ramp in the list of priorities. That's something that can definitely be done.
Yeah, I met with John, but there also was a change in leadership of District 12.
Yes.
You have that on top
That's
of,
right.
you know, going back and forth with budget funding. So, you know, he was getting his feet wet as far as priorities. Their tip list changes all the time. So he is aware of these different things. And I think he's trying to get his bearings on priorities because he's got every single community reaching out to him and he's brand new.
Right. But our office can certainly help amplify the concern, for sure. We can do that.
I appreciate it.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Senator. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate
Come
it.
back and visit us again.
Thank you.
All right, this time we have an award, and so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Raguse.
Thank you very much. This evening, Jay Galtman from the Auditor State's Office is here to present the city with the Auditor State Award with distinction for the 2018 audit.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here tonight on behalf of Auditor of State Keith Faber to award the City of Brooklyn with the Auditor of State Award with distinction. It's important to note that our office audits over 6,000 entities across the state, and less than 5% of them receive this award. It shows a commitment on every level of the city's government to fiscal integrity, which is very important. I'd like to give a special congratulations to Mr. Raguse because of his leadership, professionalism, and commitment to auditing excellence. So on behalf of Auditor of State Keith Faber, again, congratulations.
Tom, you can, or you bring your team up as well, yeah?
Sure, everyone smiles.
Ron's gonna photobomb you.
No, make sure this is good, Justin. Yes.
Congratulations, Tom, and thank you guys. Thank you, Jake, for being here. Appreciate it. Well, I trust that everyone had a blessed summer. It's hard to believe that school is back in session and summer is pretty much officially over. While we were on break, council did have two special meetings during the summer. One was on July the 1st, another was on August the 12th. During the July 1st meeting, we approved several pieces of legislation. We adopted the 2020 fiscal year tax budget. We established a fund for the Domestic Abuse Commission. We authorized the mayor to enter an agreement with Fire Recovery USA for billing services, which were the fire department. We adjusted the compensation for various employees, primarily to accommodate for the minimum wage increase. And we also authorized a job retention and creation grant with TAP Packaging Solutions, and this is the company that went in at the former Hugo Boss facility. During the August 12th meeting, we approved a change order extending the portion of American Road to be completed this year. Then we also met in executive session to discuss potential purchase of property. So that is what went on as far as council goes during the summer. At this time, we'll have the public session. If anyone in the audience is in this say for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn, please step forward, state your name and address, and you'll be recognized. Please remember to keep your comments to 5 minutes or fewer.
Good evening, everyone. Victor Ardito, 7439 Outlook Avenue. There's a couple things to mention. In the city park, we used to be able to drive cars through, and that's been eons ago. Overall, the asphalt's not in bad condition, but some of the cracks are quite large and they've never been tarred. Brooklyn, I believe, has their own tire machine. Is there any reason they can't go in there when they're tiring and fill the cracks in that roadway? They just be able to drive through and all the way down and out the back to the South Amber, is that? Because there's some large cracks and it'll make the road last longer, putting the tar in those large cracks. And I was walking down Memphis during the summer the one time, and just about across from the fire station, and there's like the beverage store. It's been a while, I don't know if it's been fixed, but the sidewalk itself was in, the one section was in real bad shape. Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neal.
My name is Constance Fredrickson. I note that you are considering
Excuse me, real quick, not to interrupt you, can you just state your address for the record, please?
217 Side Saddle. I note that you are considering Section G, which would be exempting yourself from the plastic bag, the single carrier plastic bag ban that Cuyahoga County is proposing to implement in January. I am a chair of a group of citizens who have studied that issue, and I would like to tell you what we learned so that you can consider these facts when you make your decision. The single carrier bag is what we are talking about. The 345 municipalities have already in this country passed such legislation that would ban those single-use plastic bags. And most of the major cities are included in those municipalities. I noted that your concern was one, would businesses suffer? You will find, as we studied the issue, businesses do not suffer at all because the bags are not available. People adjust very quickly, and as you would yourself, not exempt yourself from your local grocery store where you get your favorite steaks or products because you have to carry your reusable bag in. Most of us have reusable bags. We forget to bring them into the store with us. So, given that businesses don't lose, why would we citizens be involved at all in the issue? We're concerned because of our lakes and our rivers. We're concerned about the animals who are getting strangled and suffocated with the swallowing of these products. The oceans are gutted. There is now evidence that 95% of our water has particles of plastic, because what happens with plastic is it doesn't disintegrate like soil or paper. It breaks down and it goes into our fish and into our drinking water and into our products. So we are concerned because plastic is made of chemicals, and the chemicals that plastics are made of are cancerous. So we are probably facing an epidemic that we have no concept of because we didn't know what we were committing to when we started down this road of the kind of use of plastic. 50% of all of the plastic production is for these one-use plastic bags. So we can significantly stop some of the proliferation of the poisoning of ourselves by such bans. And that's why citizens all over the country and municipalities have gathered together in order to try and ban this. China also is no longer recycling the 10% of bags that did go to them. So it's going to get worse if we don't do something, and we urge you to stay within the county community and address this issue.
Thank you. One thing, you didn't state the city, your city and state for the...
I'm in Berea.
Okay.
but I'm speaking
we
because,
just have that.
yes, I am representing a coalition of people in the area.
Yes, thank you, Constance, appreciate your time.
Good evening. My name is Justine Smith. My address is 3677 West 140th, Cleveland, Ohio. I live in Cleveland. I often shop in Brooklyn at Ridge Park Square. I'm also here to talk about the plastic bag ban for Cuyahoga County. I'm happy to comply with it because I don't want to see plastic bags strewn all over the street. I don't want to see them in the rivers and the lakes. We have Lake Erie, which is our precious resource here. The problem with plastic, and the reason plastic became popular, is because it is durable, it doesn't break down, but now it's become a problem. And I'm happy to use paper bags. I'm happy to carry my own reusable bags. As a matter of fact, I shop at Aldi's quite a bit, and I have to bring my bags there. Anybody familiar with Aldi's? They do not provide bags, and they're doing a booming business. So I think it's just something similar to traffic laws. You know, we have traffic laws for the common good, and I don't feel that this is taking away anything from us. As a matter of fact, I think it'll enhance our community to have a cleaner community and to be more progressive in that sense. And I remember when I was growing up, you know, we always had paper bags at the grocery store, and I don't ever remember hearing my parents complain about paper bags. And the thing with paper is it breaks down and the plastic doesn't. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. I think you all know who I am, but I'll introduce myself again. I am John Wagner, 4825 Bentonwood Drive in Brooklyn, Ohio. We have two very important things that are happening this fall. Some of you are running for re-election. I can't discuss who I am technically supporting, but I think you all know who you probably are. And the second thing, we're very, very important, is we have our final push for the census. Let me give you a little update. We're about 37% of the people needed to help us with the census completed. We've got about 37% of the applications. So if you do a quick math, we still have 63%. The big push is as we start the first of the year. We are in very good shape in most areas of Brooklyn. As you know, I just said I'm a resident, so it's important to me to make sure that we get that 100% coverage for Brooklyn, because it's not only going to affect what we're doing over the next few months, it's going to affect us over the next 10 years. So a little different tonight. I'm going to ask you for all of your support, which I've done in the past, except tonight, if you don't mind, I'm going to hand out a card with my name and my telephone number and my census email address. And I'm going to ask you to talk to everybody that you know, not only personally, but if you're involved in any kind of committees, church, civic, anything like that, please spread the word that we need to get this thing completed. We need to get applications completed. I'm giving you my card because I'll talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime. Some of you are smiling because you see me talking to anybody, anywhere, any of the time. So please don't hesitate to use it. Spread it. I want to thank you because we're going to be in the next newsletter coming out in October. Jill's been a big help with that, but that's just the beginning. So I'm reaching out to you personally to just pass this information along so that I can help us accomplish what we need to do. So if you don't mind, I'm going to approach you and just give you these cards and go away.
Real quick before you do, John, give me your phone number so that the people have it out there.
Yes, it'll be on the card, but the phone number is 704, yes, I know it's not a local number, 704-451-8717. Again, the number is 704-451-8717. And a little bit of other news, we are finally getting our own Cleveland office. It is, after several months of delays, It is scheduled for in about the next 2 weeks, and when you see an email from me, it'll no longer say Cranberry ACO, it'll say Cleveland. Because I cannot tell you how many times people ask me with my out-of-state cell number and this thing that says basically Pittsburgh, they want to know where I live. I live right here, so that'll get clarified too. Thank you for the time, and I'm going to just take a few seconds and pass these cards around.
While he's doing that, does anybody else have anything that's safely good and well for the city of Brooklyn? Okay, we're now going to move on with reports of committees, commissions, and boards. We'll begin this evening with the Finance Committee. We do meet prior to the regularly scheduled council meeting at 6:30 in the conference room. All are welcome to attend. This evening we went over the following. There are 4 notifications that the administration is notifying council of grants that were and monies that were awarded to the city. The first of which is a grant from the Ohio Department of Public Safety. This is for the fire department in the amount of $2,841. And these funds are going to be used to purchase equipment for the new ambulance. The second one is a grant from NOPEC for an electronic device charging station, and this will be installed in the recreation center. The third is the Walmart Community Grant Award for the fire department of $2,500, and this will be used to purchase the smoke detectors in the city for residents to pick up at the fire department. And then lastly is another Walmart grant award for the police department for $2,500, and this is for a Shop with a Cop program. So I want to say thank you to Walmart once again for partnering with the city of Brooklyn for these grants. On the agenda this evening, Resolution 2019-4 is on first reading. This is accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the tax levies and certify them to the county fiscal officer. The total millage has not changed from last year, but where the funds are distributed has, and so I'll go through that. The inside property tax millage breakdown is a total of 5.9 mils. 1.1 will go to the general fund, 1.0 will go to the bond retirement fund, 1.83 will go to the police pension fund, 1.3 goes to the fire pension fund, and then 0.67 will go to the street lighting. Again, that's a total of 5.9 millage that has not changed from last year. Resolution 2019-5 is on first reading. This was a request in the county fiscal office to advance taxes from the proceeds of the 2019 tax levies. And this is just a housekeeping item. This request the county advance Brooklyn the tax money that will be owed to us. Ordinance 2019-34 is on first reading but hopes to be passed by emergency this evening. This is assessing unpaid costs of abating nuisance and hazard violations of section 521.14. This ordinance authorizes the city to request that the county auditor's office attach liens to properties who are in violation of section 521.14 of the Brooklyn Code. And this section deals with the high grass and the weeds on property. The city has followed a very long list of procedures in order to get the properties into compliance. Unfortunately, these properties were not brought into compliance by the owners, and so the city was forced to cut the grass and to take care of the weeds ourselves. And so the cost for that will now be added to the tax liens if this does indeed happen. There were only 4 properties this year, so that was good news. Still 4 too many, but down from what it has been in the past. Ordinance 2019-35 is on first reading, but we also hope to have passed by emergency this evening. This is authorizing the updated capital improvement plan for 2019, and there were numerous changes that were highlighted in this ordinance. And Mr. Raguse, when he gives his report, I'm sure we'll hit some of the highlights of these. And these again were changes that were already made throughout the year, but now they're just put into this ordinance 2019-35 that updates the capital improvement plan. Ordinance 2019-36 is on first reading. This is accepting funds from Meridian Senior Living LLC, who are commonly referred to as Brooklyn Point, for sponsorship of the City of Brooklyn Senior Services Bus. And so what this does, this authorizes a 3-year sponsorship with Brooklyn Point in the City of Brooklyn, and they're going to advertise on this senior service van. The van will still be identified as obviously the City of Brooklyn Senior Services van, but they're going to advertise on that van, and the sponsorship will be $10,000 for those 3 years. And then ordinance 2019-37 is also on first reading, but hope to pass by emergency this evening. This is authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Public Entities of Ohio for the purpose of providing our property and casualty insurance for the City of Brooklyn. The coverage will begin at September 25th of 2019 at an annual cost of $124,822. Again, all of our meetings are public. All those are welcome to attend, and they take place at 6:30 prior to the council meetings. This time, we'll move on with the Recreation Board. Councilman Tansky.
Thank you. The Brooklyn Recreation Center will be having a fall into fitness promotion from September 22nd through September 28th. All recreation center classes will be free. Buy a yearly pass, get 2 months free, or buy a monthly pass and get 2 weeks free. Brooklyn's Learn to Skate class schedules for fall, winter, and spring have been posted. Registration can be done during regular business hours or anytime online at www.brooklynskating.org. All classes will be on a first-come, first-served basis. Brooklyn's Learn to Swim program is held at the Brooklyn Recreation Center on Monday and Wednesday evenings, September 9th through October 9th. All lessons follow the American Red Cross. Learn to Swim guidelines, and swimmers will receive their ARC cards upon completion of each level's requirements. Registration can be done in person or online at www.brooklynohio.gov. For more information, contact the Rec Center at 216-351-5334. The next Recreation Board meeting will be held on Monday, September 16th in the Rec Center meeting room at 7 p.m. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Tansky. Next up is the Domestic Abuse Commission. Councilwoman Ryan Shockey.
Thank you. The Domestic Abuse Commission had an active summer, even though we didn't have any meetings. We were present at Picnic in the Park with a table with relevant information for the community. We also held a fundraiser last month at Applebee's, in which I want to thank the community for coming out and supporting our mission. We are also having a second fundraiser tonight for those that haven't eaten dinner yet. There's a Dine and Donate fundraiser at Brooklyn's Chipotle. Our next meeting will be this Thursday, September 12th at 6 o'clock at the Westbrook Village Apartment Party Room. Hope to see you there. That ends my report.
Thank you. Following the July 1st meeting, council meeting here in the summer, the Public Safety and Environmental Committee met to discuss what is now Ordinance 2019-38. This is exempting retailers within the city of Brooklyn from County Ordinance 0219-0005 adopted by Cuyahoga County Council on May 28, 2019. This ordinance would create a countywide disposable plastic ban, and it would we would proposing an ordinance that would counteract that. And this would also require the collection and recycling of disposable bags at retail establishments in the city if they choose to continue using them. I will talk more about that in my council report at a later time. At this time, we'll move on with the Board of Zoning Appeals. Commissioner Colsar.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. The Board of Zoning Appeals will be meeting September 26th. It's Thursday, 6 p.m. here in the Brooklyn City Hall Conference Room. We'll be hearing a request, variance request from Premier Brooklyn LLC to use gravel instead of the required concrete or bituminous surface for a parking lot at 4650 Tiedemann Road. I also want to acknowledge Dean Bredenbeck, a very long-time member of the Board of Zoning Appeals, who had resigned his post. Wish him the best of luck. Thank you. That completes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Jansky. Next up is the Public Works Committee. Councilman Summers.
Thank you. On Tuesday, August 6th, the Public Works Committee held an informational meeting in the City Council chambers that was open to the public. In attendance were all three Public Works Committee members, as well as Mr. Dan Garrison, Brooklyn City Engineer, Mayor Katie Gallagher, Law Director Kevin Butler, and a few residents whose properties adjoin each other between Kennedy and Summer Lane. The issue at hand for the evening was standing water from heavy rains in the various backyards and having proper drainage to resolve that issue. After a lengthy meeting, it was decided to summarize the meeting in a letter where we would give residents possible 3 options, which will be mailed to the residents affected, and I'll also hand deliver that. We will try to determine a meeting date yet at a further date. The 3 points are: 1, build a storm sewer line under the lowest points of your rear yards. The city would build a storm sewer primarily under the rear yards of Summer Lane, along with catch basins that will collect stormwater and convey it through the sewer pipe to an existing city sewer to the north. All affected property owners, likely all or nearly all Kennedy and Summer residents sharing a property line, will be required to allow the city to construct the sewer line. This permission would come in the form of permanent easements. A small number of minor structures in some yards would be displaced as a result of the construction. It remains an open topic as to whether the city or property owners will be required to maintain the sewer line once it's built. We discussed that these sewer lines can last for about 20 to 30 years after they're constructed. Second option, use the city's authority to declare a nuisance for the standing water. Ohio laws permit cities to order the abatement of nuisance conditions caused then when water collects on private property and becomes stagnant and dangerous to the public health. Under this scenario, the city will obligate the affected residents to fix the problem of standing water, and if the owners fail to do so, the city would conduct the work itself and assess the cost on the owner's tax duplicates. Those officials in attendance expressed some reluctance to pit the government against private owners in this way, and that a more nuanced approach would have owners sign an agreement permitting the city fix the nuisance conditions in their yards, similar to the easement approaches detailed in number 1 above, except that the owners would fit the cost of construction. The third option is leave the problem to property owners to fix. One option, which will involve the least expense to Brooklyn's taxpayers and the least effort by the city government, would be simply to let property owners affected by standing water figure out what to do, if anything. We discussed how this option would increase the risk that private owners might make private claims against each other, possibly in court, permitting such nuisance conditions to exist. Of course, this is not an outcome anyone hopes it would come to pass. As I mentioned at the close of the meeting, we're going to try to have another meeting somewhere down the road, looking for my Public Works Committee members to try to figure out a common date. Also, I'd like to try to hear from other council members on their thoughts somewhere down the road. It's not an easy issue to resolve, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Silvers, and thank you for your work on that issue. Next up is our school board liaison, Councilman Ryan Shockey. If you could also do your fair housing report.
Yep.
At the same time.
Thank you. So with the school report, school is back in session. Be sure to drive slower, watch for kids, and not turn on red lights during school hours. Many of our red lights have school hour no turn on red. September 17th will be the next school board meeting at 6 o'clock at the Brooklyn Media Center. And then in regards to the Fair Housing Report, the Fair Housing and Review Board met last week for a training by the Fair Housing Center for Rights and Research. It was very informative and important for all of us and Dawn from the building department to have this training before an issue potentially comes up. And that ends my report.
Thank you. The Planning Commission met on Thursday, September 5th to hear the following, and it's a very lengthy list, so I apologize in advance for that. A request from Brilliant Electric Sign Company Ltd. for 2 wall signs for Zelly's Auto Service at 4393 Ridge Road. A request from Advanced Signs for 3 internally illuminated wall signs for Starbucks at 4752 Ridge Road. A request from Sign Erectors Incorporated for a new freestanding sign for Montrose Mazda at 9600 Brook Park Road. A request from Adam Signs for internally illuminated wall signs for Floor King at 6610 Bidoff Road. A request from Epic Signs for wall signs for TAP Packaging at 4600 Tiedemann Road. A request from Rhino Systems Incorporated for a wall sign for Navage at 1 American Road. A request from Tim Rubble for wall signs for Bulldog Ice Cream at 7467 Memphis Avenue. A request from Kelly Zelensky for a banner sign for temporary business Spirit Halloween at 4790 Ridge Road. All of those were approved. Additionally, a request from Sal Russo for conditional use for a daycare in an RB retail district at 4218 Ridge Road, as well as a request from Sal Russo for a site plan approval for a daycare at 4218 Ridge Road. Both those were withdrawn by the applicant. A request from Sal Russo for conditional use for a daycare in a single-family dwelling housing district at 8235 Memphis Avenue. The committee gave him a conditional use approval. A request from Premier Development LLC for a conditional use for a truck dispatch and preventative maintenance in a limited industrial district at 4650 Tiedemann Road. This was this was similar permitted use and was approved as such. And then lastly, a request from North Coast Architects Incorporated for a conditional use for a healthcare center in a multifamily planning development district at 0 Idlewood Drive. This is similar to a convalescent hospital and rehabilitation, and a conditional use was approved. The conditional use ones will need to be voted on by council. We'll get to that a little bit later on in our meeting. The next planning commission meeting will be held on October 3rd at 6 p.m. in the City Hall conference room, and all are welcome to attend. We'll now move on with reports of council. We'll begin this evening with Councilman Tansky.
Good evening. I hope everyone enjoyed their summer. It was great seeing many Brooklyn residents in our community having a good time with their family and friends. The Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce hosted their annual picnic in the park event in Veterans Memorial Park on August 17th. The Brooklyn High School Marching Band performed for the crowd. This fun-filled event included several food vendors, games, activities, and live music entertainment from Billy Lake Soda. The evening concluded with a spectacular fireworks display. I would also like to thank Councilwoman Meg Ryan Shockey for her leadership with the community cleanup. There were volunteer groups of all ages who gave their time and effort by picking up trash at various locations throughout our city. Again, thanks to all those who participated. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Tansky. Next up is Mrs. Politsky.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kurt. Good evening. Welcome to our first meeting since summer recess. I hope you all had a great summer. The picnic in the park with food, music, old cars, and fireworks was a big success. I hope you were able to attend. If you missed it, the Fall Fest is just around the corner on September 28th. Come and join us for a fun day. I have been quilting at the Historical Society for about 25 years. Our annual Shunpike sale will be on September 21st and 22nd. Come and buy bread, jellies, bakery, crafts, or white elephants. You can also purchase a quilt raffle ticket and have a chance to win the quilt at that Fall Fest. I will be hosting a Welcome to Medicare presentation on Wednesday, September 18th at 7 p.m. in the Senior Center. If you or someone you love will be 65 in the near future, there are many things you need to know beforehand. Choosing the correct supplement is just a small part of what you need to know to save money and to be comfortable with your choices. As an OSHA volunteer, I am required to attend a recertification every year. Come and get the latest information available. Starting October 7th and continuing until December 7th, I will be available at the Senior Center each Friday morning to provide individual information on choosing supplemental insurance or an Advantage plan for 2020. And that ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Mrs. Ryan.
Welcome back. I hope everyone had a wonderful summer. If your summer was anything like mine, it was a busy one. It was exciting meeting new residents at a variety of community events around Brooklyn, including the concerts in the park, the North Amber Block Party, and the community cleanups. Thanks to all the volunteers who have come out to the cleanups throughout the summer. If you haven't made it out yet, we still have 2 additional opportunities for you to join in helping to clean up our city. Save the dates for Sunday, September 22nd at 9 o'clock. We'll be meeting at Memorial Park. On Saturday, October 19th, we'll be meeting at the back of the Home Depot parking lot at 9 o'clock to clean up along Brook Park Road, along with Parma Councilman DePiero and volunteers from Parma. Hope to see you there. That ends my report.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Severance.
Thank you. Good evening. Hopefully everyone had a good, fun, safe summer. Congratulations to Mr. Raguse and his staff, Joanne, Cindy, Celeste, and Jackie. On Tuesday, September 17th from 5 to 9 at Chipotle Tiedemann is a fundraiser for the cheerleaders at Brooklyn High School for their uniforms. Post-prom committee from the high school is holding a fundraiser at Bleachers on Ridge Road on September 21st, Saturday, starting at 6 p.m. Tickets are $25. If you have any questions or wish to make any donations for the baskets, please get a hold of Kelly Kroll or Kelly Supek. Friends of Brooklyn Library will be holding a book sale on Saturday, September 21st and Sunday, September 22nd during the library hours. A bag of books will be $3. This goes in conjunction with the neighbors at the Brooklyn Historical Society having their Shunpike sale. In 2 weeks, on Tuesday, September 24th, 2 weeks from tomorrow, will be another addition of Bubba's Yard, the fresh produce behind City Hall. They'll be going on between 4 and 7 p.m. The Brooklyn branch of the Cuyahoga County Library on Ridge Road is holding a number of programs. On Wednesday, September 18th at 7 p.m., local teacher Joe Reardon recounts stories he heard directly from Lee Harvey Oswald of Oswald's sojourn in the Soviet Union, why he went, what he did there, and how he battled to return to the United States. Their meeting occurred in July 1963, just 4 months before the JFK assassination. At the beginning of this summer, several streets in Brooklyn were converted under a pilot program by the City of Brooklyn, contracted over a year ago with First Energy to change the existing street lights to LED. Ridge Road and Biddulph are done. Tiedemann is still a work in progress. Our finance director, Tom Raguse, and myself have also met with several other companies that perform complete city conversions of street lights. There are a number of benefits to this financially, just going from the high pressure sodium and middle halides to LEDs, but it also provides you a platform to adopt the smart city technologies. We'll keep the city council and administration updated on things that we find out, and it's a continuing work in progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Next up, Mrs. Pucci.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome back. I hope everyone had an enjoyable summer, and hopefully we'll have some more good weather so we can all still enjoy the outdoors. I'd first like to thank my colleagues, residents, and city employees for their condolences when my mother passed away. I truly appreciate the kind words, cards, flowers, donations, and the mass cards that were sent. Thank you very much. It really means a lot. I would also like to thank State Senator Nikki Antonio for attending this evening and sharing the important information. And also, I'd like to also thank her for how she jumped right in to pursue solutions to our school funding problem here that impacts the Brooklyn City Schools. I had an opportunity to talk with her before the meeting tonight, and she is new to our community, but she jumped right in and fought the good fight, and has assured us that she's gonna keep trying. Congratulations to Mr. Raguse and the entire finance team, Joanne, Cindy, Celeste, and Jackie on the award. Mr. Raguse, do you know offhand how many this makes for us? I know we have a long tradition of the Excellence in Financial Reporting Award.
Offhand, I do not know.
Okay.
I can try to get that information for you.
Yep, it's definitely decades. But thank you very much for all your efforts. And the only other comment I have is that regarding the resolution for the property taxes, that our property taxes that the city collects is remaining at the 5.9 mils, as Council President Van Kirk mentioned. This is the very small portion of your property taxes. And also a reminder that in 2009, Council did reduce the property taxes by 1 mil. We were at 6.9, and we have remained at 5.9. So I think we're doing a good job managing our resources. That completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mrs. Belmier.
Thank you. Where did this summer go? I don't know. It's been the busiest summer I've ever had. I'd like to thank and, of course, welcome Nikki Antonio. I've heard her speak other times at political functions, and she's always very fabulous and to the point. I think it might be because she's such a great mom and so well informed. I'd also like to mention that this Wednesday marks the 18th anniversary of 911. It gives us a time to really thank God for all our blessings that He has bestowed upon our country. It also gives us time to remember and to never ever forget our first responders and our men in blue and our countrymen who have lost their lives helping and assisting those in peril on our own soil on 9/11 that day. Their valiant service can be compared, and I get teared up every time I think about it, to the service of World War II vets, to the Vietnam vets, to the Korean vets, and those who fought so valiantly in the wars overseas. But of course, life goes on, as it really should. People pick up their lives and carry on. Kids go back to school, people remarry, and go back to work, and things go on. But they continue on and continue on. But we have to reflect and think back, and never forget what happened on that 9/11. And we have to think and thank God for all our blessings, because there's no greater love than to lay down one's life for one another. And that pretty much completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. I also, not to be repetitive, want to thank the Senator for coming in this evening, giving a report, and also answering our questions. And as a follow-up, she mentioned two individuals, the Senate President Larry Ophoff. His phone number, if you want to call it, 614-466-7505. A lot of times people think that my call is not going to make a difference, and I'm telling you it does. I've spoken with numerous state and actually at the federal level as well. They say just a few phone calls makes a huge difference. And so obviously the school funding problem is a problem. It's been a problem in this city for a long time. And the city itself is powerless to fix it. The only thing that we can do is what the school board's been doing, cutting expenses and then coming to the residents for increased levies. And so it really needs to get fixed at the state level. And so Senate President Larry Ophoff, again, his phone number is 614-466-7505. And then the Speaker of the House is Larry Householder, and his number is 614-466-2500. You don't have to leave a long message. Just say, hey, give your name, that you're from the city of Brooklyn, that you want to see the school funding issue corrected, and to help the city of Brooklyn. Obviously, it's messed up for our city and other cities as well, but we're really in a niche in that area. So again, I want to thank the Senator for coming in. Earlier this year, Cuyahoga County Council passed legislation dictating that all retail stores in our county not be allowed to provide plastic and many paper bags as well to its customers. This legislation is set to go into effect on January 1st of 2020. This legislation will affect Brooklyn businesses like Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards, Giant Eagle, Ross's, TJ Maxx, Mark's, Bed Bath & Beyond, numerous other Brooklyn retailers, as well as their customers, the residents of this city, and also those that come and shop there outside of the city of Brooklyn. The county ordinance dictates that stores not provide plastic bags and many paper bags to their customers. The county ordinance, on its merit, I believe, is beyond the realm of the county's purview. It would appear that the ordinance would infringe on Brooklyn's right under Ohio state law to regulate commerce in our city in a way that we see fit. I've mentioned numerous times in the past, not just on this issue, but other issues as well, that I'm a strong believer in the home rule ability of our city. In my opinion, the county ordinance is in clear violation of home rule, and thus can be overturned in Brooklyn by city ordinance. Beyond the home rule aspect, before passing the county ordinance, the county did not contact the City of Brooklyn administration, did not contact council to seek our advice or the advice of the administration on the effect that this ordinance would have on our residents or on our businesses. In my opinion, Brooklyn leaders are better equipped to regulate our city than is the county. Therefore, tonight, I, along with Councilman Ryan Shockey, am introducing Ordinance 2019-38. This proposed Brooklyn ordinance would create a conflicting ordinance with the county ordinance, allowing Brooklyn businesses to operate their business according to Brooklyn laws and regulations. As part of this ordinance, if businesses decide in Brooklyn to continue providing these bags that would be outlawed by the county ordinance for customers, the retailers would need to provide recycling bins in their stores to recycle plastic bags that customers return to the store. These bins will be similar to the one that currently is provided at the Brooklyn Giant Eagle. This ordinance allows for the city to continue regulating our own city, as well as providing a way for plastic bag recycling that is more convenient for the customers of Brooklyn retail establishments. Now, there is legislation being proposed right now in the state that would essentially outlaw this county ordinance, but I'm against that as well because I believe that's a violation of home rule also. And so this really is a Brooklyn issue. And so as a result of that, following our next council meeting on September the 23rd, we will hold a Public Safety and Environmental Committee meeting to discuss this ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking regarding this ordinance is welcome to attend and offer their thoughts. And so the ordinance as proposed tonight will be on first reading. I want to echo what Mr. Wagner said too, as far as working for the census. It is important. The census is vital. I know people are like, well, what's the big deal for counting people? It's huge because that's At the very base of it, that's how the electoral votes are distributed for the presidential elections, is based upon population. There's a litany of other items as well, and so they need to have people out there be able to do it. And so, plus it's a good way to make some extra money. And you can work, if I remember correctly, as little or as much as you're available to. It's not a full-time gig if you don't want it to be. And so I would encourage you to contact Mr. Wagner at 704-451-8717. And I'm glad you're getting a Cleveland office, but I'm very familiar with Cranberry. I used to live very close to there before. So, all right, so thank you, Mr. Wagner, for making us notified of that. And that concludes my report at this time. I'll turn it over to Mayor Gallagher.
Thank you, Council President McGurk. I hope everyone had a wonderful summer. Still technically summer for a couple weeks, but I feel like we're moving into fall with some of this weather. I have 3 proclamations here tonight, and I'm just going to give some highlights. One of the most important is to honor and recognize Detective Sergeant Joe Tenenfeld on his retirement from the City of Brooklyn Police Department. Joe will be retiring this month. He started in the Brooklyn Police Department in September of 2000. He was promoted to detective in September of 2006 and then to sergeant in February of 2012. He's served as a certified evidence technician, a member of the International Identification Officers Association, and a member of the Brooklyn Police Department's Honor Guard. In 2017, he was recognized as a national top cop and was a recipient of the Silver and Gold Award. This is just a little glimpse of his career here in Brooklyn. He is an outstanding detective, outstanding sergeant, and he will be sorely missed in our police department. But on behalf of the City of Brooklyn, myself, City Council, I want to wish him well on his retirement and thank him for his commitment and integrity to the City of Brooklyn over all these years. Next, I have a proclamation to recognize September as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Brooklyn. Just some facts, 174,000 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in the United States each year. Prostate cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer among American men. Education regarding prostate cancer and early detection strategies is critical to saving lives. And all men are at risk for prostate cancer. So we encourage people to learn about this, go to their doctor and visit them and ask them questions. You know, we've had several people in our community affected by this as all over, so we recognize this every September. So if you know somebody or if you have family members, please reach out to them. And then last but not least, a proclamation to recognize and celebrate September 13th through the 22nd as Welcoming the World Week. City of Brooklyn is proud to recognize the national event of Welcoming the World Week, and it's events hosted by Global Cleveland throughout that entire week, so I encourage you to look that up. The intent is to bring communities together and celebrate their unity and strong connection with each other, as well as applaud the benefits of welcoming newcomers to our community in Cleveland. This proclamation goes through just some of the amazing revenue brought in from economic development from immigrants to the Cleveland community. So I encourage you to look up the Welcoming the World Week here at Global Cleveland and participate in the events if you have some time. To get on to my normal reports, I'd like to thank Senator Antonio. Nikki and Bride Rose Sweeney, our state rep, have both been wonderful to work with over the past few months. I've met with several times on issues, and I think Brooklyn couldn't have gotten 2 better candidates or representatives here as far as reaching out to the administration in several communities around here. Also, I want to thank Tom, Joanne, Cindy, Celeste, and Jackie for your work in the Finance Department each and every day. Yes, we have been awarded the Certificate of Excellence, which is very few cities in the state of Ohio, but I see what they do every day, and they've really taken the Finance Department to the next level. This is just one little simple point, but we've gone to electronic payroll, we switched over programming, and this is all under the direction of the Finance Department and Tom, so thank you for your work each and every day. Also, we've had a lot of personnel changes over the summer months. We have a new assistant clerk of Court, Sabrina Taylor. We have 2 new service department workers, Chuck Nohale and Brian Nagro. We've promoted a new detective, Adam McQuaid. And then I also would like to thank Dean Brennenbeck, who served on our Zoning Board of Appeals for many, many years. And Dean did a wonderful job. He had some life commitments. He had to move on from that, but his service was well appreciated in this community. And then some other things that were going on that I wanted to mention. Nobody mentioned Fall Festival, which is on the 28th this month from noon to 5. So if you have little kids, this is a great event. We have hay rides, food trucks, different games for the kids. So definitely if you have little kids or grandkids, bring them on out. As well as a lot of people found that the exterior grant program, the supplemental funding we received from the county was, when people were awarded, they found it was a great program. We had over 150 applicants for that grant, and unfortunately we couldn't give it to all 150, but the 39 or so recipients that received it, you'll see new roofs going up, driveways, painting, siding, new windows. I really think that the investment from the supplemental grant as well as the matching funds that City Council were willing to give over, we will see tenfold. As people start to invest in their neighborhoods and invest in houses, other people will start to invest in their houses around them. And we've already seen over $200,000 more spent in the city of Brooklyn compared to last year, the entire year, at this point in people's residential homes. So I think that's an amazing stat, and hopefully this is something that we can continue for years to come. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll now move on with regulars reports. We have just one this evening, and that is from our Finance Director, Mr. Raguse. You're good. You were on.
I was, and I turned off.
Thank you very much. To touch on Council President Van Kirk's comments regarding the ordinances, Ordinance 2019-35 to update the 2019 capital improvement plan. So the changes are as follows. There's a estimated $10,000, not to exceed $10,000 increase as it relates to our police facility improvements. We've experienced unexpected price increases since we set the budget in late 2018. So that'll take the total project amount from an original budget of $50,000 to an estimated new revised budget of $60,000. The second piece is Safety Town Park resurfacing. So we are implementing Safety Town within the direction of our Recreation Commissioner. So this is phase 1 of the project that deals with the asphalt repavement at an estimated cost of $16,000. We anticipate phase 2 and phase 3 of the project to be included and presented to City Council for 2020 as part of the capital budget work session on October 7th. The next item, the next change is a lube system for the 524L loader at a cost of $10,150. You may remember that council passed an ordinance authorizing the purchase of this loader earlier this year. When we estimated the price, we did not take into account this lube system. So therefore, it's an addition to this project at a cost of $10,150. And the last adjustment to the 2019 capital improvement plan are related to engineering fees in relation to the Memphis to Tiedemann intersection of $42,047. So these are the engineering fees for this year. We expect and will introduce the capital budget 2020. This project is anticipated to be included in the budget presented to City Council at the capital budget work session on October 7th. So those are the changes in relation to that to the ordinance, and I appreciate the consideration by City Council to pass it on first reading tonight. Also, 2 other notes. As I mentioned a couple of times now, we have a capital budget work session on October 7th here at City Hall at 6 p.m. So that's 4 weeks from tonight, where we'll be introducing our initial 5-year capital improvement plan, among other items. And lastly, as discussed at the Finance Committee meeting, we'll be running a Rita non-Fowler program. So we did this 2 years ago in November of 2017, where basically Rita gathers a listing based upon the information that they have of potential non-Fowlers to the city of Brooklyn as far as income taxes are concerned. So we're going back from 2013 to 2017. The first piece of this process is to send mailings to these potential non-Fowlers. So those mailings will take place on or around September 18th. So if you receive a letter from Rita, please do not disregard it. It can be important and may be related to this program that we're running. And that concludes my report for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. And I want to echo what Mr. Raguse said. Mrs. wanted to mention this in the finance meeting. If you do get a letter from Rita that is talking about your taxes, don't just throw it away like I already filed them. Obviously, there's some type of issue, and so follow up with them. There'll be a phone number in there you can call to make sure that's covered. So there are, if there is something that amiss, then you need to make sure that gets corrected so there's not further action taken. So thank you, Mr. Cruz, for sponsoring that program again this year. All right, we'll now move on with legislation for this evening. There were 4 notifications that were given, one from the Department of Public Safety, from NOPEC, and 2 from Walmart. I already read those into the record during the finance report, so I'm not going to go through and do those again. Next item on the agenda is a confirmation of appointment to the City of Brooklyn's Board of Zoning Appeals. We have a letter from the mayor. Dear members of council, I'm requesting City Council confirmation on the appointment of Mr. Nick De Leon to the City of Brooklyn Zoning Board of Appeals. This appointment is necessary to the resignation of a zoning board member, Dave Brendebeck, which has already been mentioned tonight. And the new appointee will be serving the remainder of the unexpired term ending on December 31st, 2021. Mr. De Leon is an 8-year resident of Brooklyn who currently works as the Director of Community and Economic Development for the Northeast Ohio Hispanic Center for Economic Development. He's a 2018 graduate of Cleveland State University, Maxine Goodman College of Urban Studies with a BA in Regional Planning and Economic Development. And I am confident he will serve the City of Brooklyn well in this capacity, and that comes from Mayor Gallagher.
Move to confirm Mr. De Leon to the unexpired term on the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Second.
To confirm the appointment, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Okay, then we have 2 requests tonight. The first one is a request of confirmation of conditional use for the Mini Miracles Daycare, and this was one of the conditional uses that I read about in the Planning Commission report, and this is for a daycare at 8235 Memphis Avenue, and there was a conditional use approval given by the Planning Commission, but it does need confirmation from council.
Move to approve.
Second.
To approve the conditional use, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
On the next one, prior to the Finance Committee meeting, I had a brief conversation with Mr. Butler, and he brought up a point that Mrs. Pucci had made that the next one, which is the confirmation of conditional use for the convalescent hospital rehabilitation, those conditions have not been made yet, and so I'm going to make the recommendation that council hold off on confirming this conditional use until those conditions have been made.
I make that motion.
Second.
Well, maybe we should say, I move that we hold this in abeyance until after the Planning Commission determines what conditions would be appropriate. Conditions, stipulations, and safeguards would be appropriate.
Second.
To hold in abeyance, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Resolution 2019-4 is on first reading, accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county fiscal officer. And again, this is the 5.9 millage that we already talked about. This is on first reading. Resolution 2019-5 on first reading, requesting the county fiscal officer advance taxes from the proceeds of the 2019 tax levies pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code Section 321.34. Ordinance 2019-34 is on first reading, but we hope to pass by suspension of the rules this evening, assessing unpaid costs of abating nuisance and hazard violations of Section 521.14 of the codified ordinances of the City of Brooklyn. Any comments or questions on that?
Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To To suspend the rules, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
To adopt, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
And the total of those tax liens will be $1,200, will be the total of those. Next up is 2019-35. This is on first reading, but we hope to pass by suspension of the rules this evening. This is authorizing the updated capital improvement plan for 2019. Mr. Raguse just went through the changes in that plan. Any comments or questions? All right, introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
To adopt, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
On first reading this evening is ordinance 2019-36, accepting funds from Meridian Senior Living LLC, referred to as Brooklyn Point LLC, for sponsorship of the City of Brooklyn Senior Services Bus. Again, that's on first reading. Ordinance 2019-37 is on first reading, but we hope to pass by suspension of the rules, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with public entities of Ohio for the purpose of providing property and casualty insurance for the City of Brooklyn, for the coverage beginning September 25th, 2019, for a total annual cost not to exceed $124,822. Any comments or questions? Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
To adopt, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
And lastly is ordinance 2019-38 on first reading, exempting retailers within the City of Brooklyn from County Ordinance 02019-0005, adopted by Cuyahoga County Council on May 28, 2019, which creates a countywide disposable bag ban, and creating Chapter 759 of the Brooklyn Codified Ordinances, retail disposable bag recycling, to require the collection and recycling of disposable bags at certain retail establishments in the city. That concludes our agenda for this evening. Council, I am going to make a motion in a second that council adjourn into executive session for the discussion of the potential purchase of property. I would like to invite into that executive session council, the finance director, and the law director. Does anyone else, before I make that motion, have anything they need to say? Right after we get back from the executive session, we will simply adjourn our meeting. There will be no further business taken. So I will make the motion that council adjourn into executive session for discussion of the potential purpose of land. Included in that will be the law director, the finance director, and council.
Second. To adjourn to executive session, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Barb Politzky.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki. Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed evening.